I have an unpopular opinion. That opinion is that James Charles is lucky, yes, lucky, to be in the predicament he's in right now. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then in the span of just 3 days, this past week, the most popular beauty and makeup YouTuber, James Charles, lost 3 million subscribers, dropping from 16 million to 13 million. This comes after another popular makeup YouTuber and former friend of James Charles posted a 40-minute expose video of him exposing him for being a bad friend, attacking his moral character, and alleging that he has been sexually manipulative. Now, I'm not too interested in any of the allegations or proving whether or not they're true or false. I'll leave the investigative drama journalism to E! News. But what I am interested in is how this story serves as the perfect backdrop to highlight the most crucial element of stoicism and, more importantly, the danger of ego. Now, Murphy's Law is an old adage that says anything that can go wrong will go wrong. This couldn't be more true, and it's especially true for ultra famous and influential people like James Charles. No matter how high and mighty we may feel, we are all fragile and mortal beings, and unfortunately for James Charles, he is no different. You are not special. None of us are. The externalities in life, things like fame, money, status, external validation in the form of likes and comments, all of these are out of our control by default, meaning that they can be taken away from you. If you rely on them for your happiness and sense of self-worth and they're taken away, then what is left? This is the exact predicament I imagine James Charles is facing right now. We humans often hide behind these external things as a defense mechanism to make ourselves feel better when we're not satisfied with ourselves or something in our life. Unfortunately, what's typically the case is that the more famous and popular someone becomes, the more validation they need to feel happy, and the more they can get away with relying on it because the validation comes so frequently and so regularly. We use external validation to stroke our ego, and in doing so, we use ego as a crutch. It's putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. It may stop the bleeding for a second, but it won't last for long. When you identify with these external things like your celebrity status or your fame or your net worth or how much money's in your bank account, what you're subconsciously saying to yourself is that I am nothing without these things. And this is a toxic way to live. Take James Charles' position, for example. If I were to identify with the fact that I have 16 million subscribers and then it was suddenly all taken away, I would feel wronged, my ego would be bruised, and I would feel damaged. My sense of self-worth would immediately drop as the subscriber count did. And what ends up happening in these sorts of scandals and situations where you go from being on top of the world to at the bottom is that suddenly all the people's opinions and support I was relying on for external validation would quickly become the same people who are causing my pain and suffering by saying all of these negative things about me, retracting their support and unsubscribing. This is why it's so important to live up to your own expectations and be solely responsible for what warrants success for you and for your life, not what the world or what anybody else tells you success is or looks like. Success and happiness need to be defined and outlined for yourself, because when you let others decide it for you, you're leaving the fate of your success and happiness in the hands of the mob. In the position of James Charles, were you to identify with your celebrity status, with your fame, with your 16 million subscribers, then from one day to the next, quite literally, you can go from being famous to infamous, from 16 million to 13 million, from most revered and most honored to most hated. I mean, this is the same guy who was handpicked by the CEO of YouTube to attend the Met Gala literally less than 1 week ago. He was seen as a catalyst, as an representative for influencers in the traditional media space. And literally less than a week later, he's turned into the most hated man on YouTube right now. Because right when you're on top of the world is typically when it all comes crashing down. End of the day, you are not your fame, you are not your net worth, you are not your celebrity status, you are none of these external or material things, because they can be very easily taken away from you at a moment's notice. They're not yours. There will always be things outside of your control. And at the end of the day, all you have is control over how you react to the circumstances you're put into. Nobody, regardless of how famous or how wealthy, can avoid or escape the unavoidable suffering and setbacks that life will throw our way. How you respond in the face of this suffering, though, is when you're forced to confront who you really are and the type of person that you choose to be. These humbling experiences force you to take a step back and really think about what matters and what's important to you and to your life. Now, I can't say for sure whether or not James relies on his fame and his success for his internal happiness, but what I can say is that it's not uncommon for people with large and small amounts of success to fall into this all too common, extremely common trap. Maybe he's a good guy, maybe he's not. I don't know. But all I can say is this controversy he's found himself in should serve as a warning to avoid these types of egotistical tendencies. At the end of the day, James Charles is lucky. Yes, lucky to have this problem. If your biggest problem right now is that you went from 16 million subscribers to 13 million, then you are in the top 1% of the 1% of people with problems. This is a very high quality first world problem. The fact is, regardless of how this looks right now, this will all blow over and James will still be able to make a 7, if not 8-figure career from his social media businesses that he's built up until this point. And that just goes to show that even in what may appear to be the worst situations, there are always things we can and should be grateful for. And hey, if you need any proof of career comebacks, then look no further to Robert Downey Jr. literally pioneering an entire franchise on his back and Avengers Endgame doing over $1 billion in its first weekend, when literally just a decade and a half ago, he was abusing substances and considered unhireable by Hollywood. Point being is when you release yourself from your attachment to these types of external identities and ideas of yourself is when you can truly be free. And whether or not any of the allegations are true or not, I still wish James Charles nothing but the best, as I do for all of you. And with that, I'd like to end this video with a quote from perhaps one of my favorite Stoics, Epictetus. And he says, "Just keep in mind, the more we value things outside of our control, the less control we have."